If you were ill in Vesalius's time, you had a high chance of dying. But that was true of anybody until the 19th century. But what you would be, if you were lucky, would be treated by somebody who observed you very carefully, gave you herbal drugs, which might cure you, but certainly wouldn't kill you. And the body cures itself. So if you're well looked after and nursed, you had a high chance of recovery. And of course, the wealthier you were, the higher the chance of being nursed and looked after well. Vesalius is primarily a surgeon. He's got a wonderful technique with a knife, but he has been trained as a doctor. He's been trained in all the best medical schools, and we know that kings, counts, princes called him in as a private doctor. So he must have been thought, at least, to have been an excellent practitioner. Galen was a Greek physician who lived at the time of the Roman Empire. He was passionately interested in anatomy and believed that in order to be a good doctor, you needed to know about the anatomy of the human body. And he codified all the previous anatomical knowledge of the ancients. And his own dissections and his own writings became the standard for everybody that followed. And they thought it was going to be enough to know your Galen, know your books, know this. Galen himself had insisted that you dissect yourself. In the Latin Middle Ages, some of Galen's anatomical works became known in translation, and from 1317, some universities instituted an annual dissection. But of course, this means you couldn't see the body. It's being done almost as a performance. At the end of the 15th century in Italy, Greek manuscripts are coming from the Eastern Mediterranean and are now being able to be read by people who know Greek. And they suddenly realized that Galen had wanted to do more than just learn anatomy from a book. And so from 1490 onwards, you get the young doctors wanting to bring in dissection as a central feature of the modern university. And suddenly it becomes all the rage throughout Europe, the new Galen revised, the Renaissance Galen. Vesalius, when he begins his medical career, is one of these new Galenists. His first job is to correct Latin translations of Galen's anatomy. And he suddenly realizes that this is not the whole story. And why he's important is because he takes that next step. As Vesalius discovered mistakes, and he went on to discover more and more mistakes simply because he found that Galen had dissected animals, not human beings. And it's the discovery that this is a systematic error that marks Vesalius out from his contemporaries. They had seen little pieces of Galen that were wrong. Vesalius says, no, the whole methodology is wrong. One current in medicine was begun by a Swiss called Paracelsus, who was briefly professor in Basel, and he preached a sort of chemical theory of the body, and he rejected book learning in favor of a sort of intuition view of knowledge. But his theories did not become important in Vesalius's lifetime. Paracelsus had a reputation then as a prophet, but also and as a surgeon. And it's not till the end of the 1540s that Paracelsian medicine begins to spread widely in Germany, France, and then England. But when Vesalius was growing up, everybody was a Galenist. Everybody believed in Galen's medicine. Vesalius did have competitors because there were other young anatomists who were wanting to make a name for themselves. But what distinguished Vesalius was, first of all, his sheer technical skill with a knife, and secondly, this new idea about what anatomy should be about. And this was what distinguished him from his competitors. Vesalius lives at a period we call the Renaissance. It's a remarkable intellectual flowering, and in this period, particularly in medicine and science, new worlds, new opportunities, new means of living. Cities are becoming wealthier, universities are being created, and there's an intellectual ferment in which Vesalius takes part.